So I've got the Tweaker 40 here, the head, and I'm actually running it through the speaker on my Line 6 Spider 475. And yeah, so this is a great amplifier. I've been very pleased with it. I'm no expert. I haven't had a great number of amplifiers in the 15 years that I've been playing the guitar, but I have come to know what sounds I like, and this thing really fits the bill and works in a variety of situations. So it's 40 watts. It's got 3 12AX7s in the preamp and 2 6L6 GCs in the power section. Again, I'm no expert. I haven't done a lot of comparison between 6L6s and EL34s, EL84s, that sort of thing. So I'm not the best guy to trust on which one of those you should take. All I know is I really have enjoyed the way that it sounded so far, and maybe I'll try some EL34s in the future. But right now it works for me. And yeah, 40 watts of power, 2 channels, shared EQ, lots of tweaker switches. So yeah, let me take you through some of the sounds here. Here's the basic clean tone that I use, most common. It's on the AC channel. The AC mode on this mini switch here, and got the EQ controls at 12 o'clock. Got it on vintage mode over here. Deep, clean, bright, mid-cut. Lower that volume a little bit on the master just so we can not overload the camera. Okay, so the great thing about this amp, and I'm sure it's the same thing with a lot of decent amps, again, I haven't had many decent amps, but the amp is so responsive. So if I just strum basic, it's crystal clear. Maybe if I go to my single coil in the middle, it's even cleaner. If I increase my attack, you can hear it starting to distort. Okay, so very dynamic amplifier. You take that same sound, just a good mid-gain clean tone, and let's see how it sounds on the USA mode. I like this mode as well, but most of my playing is done with a pretty large band at church. And I like the AC mode because it breaks up earlier than the American, the USA mode. And it doesn't break up the same way or quite as much as the Brit mode. So the AC mode kind of works for what I'm doing at church. I can get some breakup and have it really stick to the rest of the instruments in the mix, but I'm able to keep it really clean if I need to also without changing any settings. But here's the same thing on the USA mode. Haven't changed anything but this little mini switch right there. Sounds very glassy. Still has some breakup. Not as much. Sounds like a treblier sound. Let's go back down to AC. Back up to USA. Definitely sounds like it's got a bit more shimmer on it. I almost perceive maybe a little more volume. And maybe that's just because of which frequencies are being accentuated. Okay, let's hear the same thing on the Brit mode. And this is more of a chubby Marshall kind of clean. I've heard it compared to a Bassman. I don't know. I've never had a Bassman, but I'll trust the people that have. I've also heard it described as woolly by a few folks like the Tone Chef. So here's that. It's definitely louder. It's also breaking up a lot more at the same level. So I'm going to strum this again and then switch between the other two modes and pretty much the same dynamics, but hear how the sound changes. Hopefully you can hear it through my iPhone's microphone. So here's the Brit mode. AC. And USA. So you can kind of hear the difference in character between those three. They all had some distortion in them. I think the Brits was more apparent. You could kind of hear more noise in between my pick strokes, just from how the distortion is filling up that sound. Let me play a slightly different example. It isn't so much full chord strumming, more of a bluesy kind of I don't know, country piano, as Joe Satriani would say. Okay, so I'm going to do this on all three modes. Start out here on the USA at the top, and again, I haven't changed anything in terms of EQ or the tweaker switches from where I had them before. So let's have a listen here. Okay, it's on the USA mode. Same thing on the AC. Okay, same thing on the Brit. And again, you can hear the way that they all kind of sound a little bit different there. Let's try that same little pattern. I had it on my neck pickup before. Let's go to the bridge pickup. Let's start again at the USA. Okay, AC. Okay, and then on the Brit. So yeah, the AC definitely sounds like it's the quieter of the three. And again, it could just be what frequencies I'm hearing coming out of the speaker and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, definitely a different tonal character on each one. It really is like having three different amps in a sense. And even though you can't switch between which EQ mode you're in on the fly, you know, I find that for playing in a live situation, that's okay. Being able to change settings between songs and get a completely different amp sort of out of your rig is very useful. Let's hear how all these same sounds sound with some single note playing. So I'll just do a little sequence of licks here. So let's start here on the USA mode again. Same sound, nothing's changed. Okay, same thing on the AC. Or similar thing. On the Brit. Okay. And Go back up to the USA. A little higher up on the guitar. Okay, similar thing on the AC. Okay, let me go down to the Brit. Good. All right. So the thing that everybody wants to hear, I'm sure, is the dirty channel on this thing. So since this is my initial overview of the amp, I will dig a little deeper in the future. Let me get you some of the basic distortion sounds on here too. And for that, we go over here to the second channel. The two channels are identical. You don't have to go to the second channel, but I've already got the hot switch set over here. So yeah. So let's start out on the USA mode. Got the EQ all at 12 o'clock again. So, yeah, the thing is, you're looking at this on the internet. That's one drawback. I've got this thing at, much lower volume than I normally would for this type of sound, and if you guys know amps, whether it's a solid state amp or a tube amp, nothing sounds as good as it's really going to sound when you're playing this low. Now, I still think it sounds pretty good for the sake of the demo, but go to a store and try this before you say, I don't like the distortion. Because the distortion on this thing actually sounds fabulous. Just a really great natural sounding distortion. And so hopefully it translates well on the video. That's why I'm putting it up after all, but don't make your sole judgment based on the video. If it sounds good, it's because it does sound good. If it sounds bad, trust me, it's not because it sounds bad. It's because of the medium. So okay, so here's kind of a mid-gain, higher than mid-gain, kind of sound here. I've got the hot switch engaged, which you can kind of think of as that's what makes this a distortion channel. It adds a lot more gain on the front end, and makes your sound dirtier to begin with. If you start out with no gain, it's no volume. Okay. So this is on USA mode. All the other settings are the same. EQ is the same. I've got all the switches over here down, which you can kind of think of as normal. Got them all down except for the hot switch. So, what should I play for you? How's that Okay, let's do the same thing on the AC mode. Okay, same thing on the Brit mode. I'm going to do something right now and try to get a good lead tone. So the setting that I'm on right here, it's not too bad. And it's on the Brit mode, so you would expect a good lead tone. If it's trying to imitate a Marshall, right? How about on the other settings? Can we get a good lead tone there as well? Can we get a better lead tone on the Brit setting than what we have now? One of the things that I like to do for my lead tone is go a little bit higher on the gain. I also like to use the tight switch here. Take some of the bottom end off. Some of the difference there. Okay? So that's kind of a prerequisite for me. I get the tight switch on there, especially when you're playing with a big band like I do. I mean, on any given Sunday, we might have 2 cellos, some violins, oboes, flute, in addition to a very capable piano player, synth, bass, drums. So I cannot have a super fat lead tone because it's just not going to work. I don't want a skinny ice pick lead tone either, but it's got to be a focused sound. And so for my tone, I like to start with that tight switch engaged. And you'll see in a sec, regardless of which setting we're on, it really helps to focus it and clean it up. So that's all in the Brit mode. Let's go up to USA. So you can hear that's a lot treblier. I hope you can hear it. Back to USA. On the Brit, you can almost hear more of the attack, more of the string and pick noise. It's fatter. USA. Definitely thinner and not as much attack as apparent. Let's go to the AC mode. Definitely between the two. Let's hear what happens if we do another thing that I like to do, and that's switch the mode from vintage to modern. I think this tightens it up a little bit too. I haven't done too much fiddling, but from my experience playing with it, this is the USA mode. So here's vintage. Modern. Definitely a lot more alive. Okay, and then AC on modern. Here was vintage mode on the AC. Modern. Okay, let's go down to Brit. Here was vintage on the Brit. Modern. Sound is a lot clearer on the modern with that Brit especially. If we go back down to vintage. Definitely chubbier on the vintage mode. Yep, waffled that. going to go back down to modern. Definitely a lot clearer, articulate. Still has a lot of the same attack that we had on vintage mode, where you can really hear the notes as I strike them, almost wet sounding. Yeah. What else? How about some big chords to close us out, okay? USA. Okay. AC. And Brit. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed that demo. I hope it's been helpful for you. I hope you'll go out and buy one. I'm not paid by Egnater, but I love this thing. I'm definitely a convert to the tweaker camp now. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. You can check out my blog at semiprofessional.blogspot.com.